Hey guys, welcome back to the channel again. Pumping on the 05. Just to update, the 07's running really well. James is slowly working his way in on that race FCA from Exergy, but all good things. I owe you guys a video update on that. It's just now that it runs and drives, I'm getting seat time, making sure the turbos work. We're gonna do some front end work on it, just like ball joints, hubs, stuff like that, and get it ready for the street race. But tonight we are working on the 05, doing ultimately my favorite thing, which is bolting on the sled pole setup. Yeah, so we start out with our big hitch products. This is a roll pan hitch, bolts into the factory OEM, very strong, rated for 20,000 pounds. Sled pulled with this before. I have my eBay sled pull hitch, still rusty trusty, and then we have our sled stops here. Now we're gonna go ahead and bolt on the Dirty Hooker Diesel suspension lockouts. These are really simple, 2 bolts, bolt in, very adjustable. So let's go ahead and get those thrown on. All right, so we pulled out the sled pull tub. All the hardware was here, which is a sigh of relief. I labeled them this time, so we got them nice and square. We got them at full height, which is where we did it for King of the Street last year. Again, just the 2 bolts that the bump stop holds in. They're nice and tight on this bar here. Fully adjustable. Tony over there at DHD did a great job. Now we just got the 420s on. We don't have the full chooch yet, but looking at the height, we have 23.5 inches. These tires here add about an inch, so that'll put us at 24.5. UCC says 26-inch max hitch height, so we got an 1.5 inches of play. We'll strap down the front and stuff, but we'll end up very, very legal, I promise. But guys, this is, if you can't tell by my voice, my favorite part of any of these challenges is bolting the sled pole stuff on. I just think these trucks look so cool with sled pole setup. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get her jacked up, and the other cool thing is these old shocks we'll be able to use for the sled pole, which is nice because you want a little bit, if the truck tries to bounce off the sled stops, you want a shock there to kind of hold it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get these bolted on. I think I'm just gonna do the inners for right now, because that's all I really need to set the height. All right guys, we are 102 inches wide, and these tires are getting replaced soon by something a little bit better for UCC. But man, just the fuel cell, the shocks, the hitch, the sled stops, the hitch, the duals. I mean, this thing, I freaking love it. This is my favorite part, is the sled pole. I know I'll get this. These are factory Dodge wheels we powder coated. They're Duratrack Wrangler 295 7017s. We run a 2-inch spacer on the inside, 2-inch spacer between. Our new setup, just a little tidbit, we're gonna have to run a 3-inch wheel spacer on the inside and 4 in between, because they are what, Mer?
Fat. Oh, I'm sorry. Thick.
Okay. How many C's do you think?
It's gotta be at least 7.
7? Okay. That makes sense. 7 inches spacer. And then here's the ones we run on the front. We run a Dixie Peck, just a different tread pattern. And what's cool about these front ones is they actually end up riding almost right in the middle of the duals, so you're always kind of grabbing fresh dirt. But man, I'll tell you what, for a week's worth of work, this thing is really transformed. Now we got to get to working on the bar that goes from the axle to the hitch, and then we also have to work on cutting the bed out. That's Mer's job. Dude, I thought you were gonna help me with UCC, bro. Oh, you're on Team Todd now?
Team Todd. All the way. Team on top.
Cue the Sarah McLachlan music. I'm not crying, you're crying. So a little trick when you guys are trying to make tabs for a bigger diameter, like this, like I'm trying to make the tabs for the axle. If you bolt all 4 tabs together and then you grind them, and you can radius all 4 at the same time, and then it stops the grinder from slipping off too. So these will be the lower support bars for the hitch support. So it'll go from the axle to this hitch with these bars here. Probably gonna have to remake the bars, but you get the drift. So now that we got all of these ground down, we can go ahead and figure out where we're gonna put them on the axle and start making our bars. Working on the lower bracket, you guys can see here we got the outside welded. Let's give you a better look. So the rules say below the axle center line. So I decided to just play it nice, and I put the top of the tab at the center line. That way nobody can have a little hissy fit, because I'm sure there's going to be some freaking a-holes at this event that want to ride the rules, but our point is below the center line, tied in nice to the traction bars, and then we're going to shoot for kind of like right here, make a nice triangle, and that should really give us a lot of downforce on the axle and make a really strong triangle, and that's going to help alleviate some of the stress on the sled stops, or on the lockouts rather. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish burning these in, then I'll get my spots I want here, burn those in, and then we'll put the heims in and measure for bar length. Have our hitch brackets here, and then you guys can see we're gonna have a pretty decent angle back there to that one, so should make a nice triangle, be nice and strong, add a lot of support for this hitch, and it puts the weight right on the axle. So all in all, this hitch should be pretty solid. It'll also fit King of the Street rules too, which will be nice. So I think our next step, we got to cut the rod ends off these bars on the lathe. And yeah, I think that's our next step there. So we can get the bars mocked up and get the heims installed. We cut down our old 12 valve bars, and these are misalignment spacers. You guys can see here, these are actually different color. I actually made these by hand out of some bar stock. I obviously copied these, but we actually got it to work and allow it to do the misalignment portion. And then we got our DOM tube nice and squared up. We cut the old rod ends out of the original bar. And then I always spin these bars in a lathe and cut them, that way they're nice and true. But that is awesome. So we'll have good hitch support that ties into the axle right next to the the traction bars. So nice triangles. They kind of go in, plenty of room on the fuel cell. This is going to be really strong on the sled pull. This will also kind of take a little bit of stress away from these two. And basically, if you guys look, you have a vertical here, triangle, and then if you look here with the traction bars, to the front of the frame, back and down, triangle. So essentially what we've made is two triangles. Triangles are the strongest shape. So now all we got to do is weld the rod end nuts to this DOM tube here. This is, I believe, 1.25 inch 250 wall, so plenty strong enough. Let's get these welded up, and that will be a wrap. Got the rod ends fully welded. We got our preload set, and basically as I do these projects, I have like a note system in my phone. Like Note, it's for like Apple. I'm just making lists of the hardware. Like I'm gonna get 6 bolts for the bar. I only need 4, but I'm gonna get 6. I'm gonna get 6 bolts for the dirty hooker diesel stuff. I know I only need 4, and then I label the tub system. So this is our sled pull. The dirty hooker stuff goes in here. The hitch goes in here. What else goes in here? The straps for the front. And basically all the things that we need for the sled pull go in this tub. And then like that tub there is the single turbo setup. Then we have the compound turbo setup. Yada, yada, yada. You guys get it. Keeps the water out. Keeps everything organized. All the wheel spacers go in there as well. And it's worked really well for me in the past. So we're going to continue to do that. The last thing we'll probably do in this video, now that the sled pull setup's completely done, we got the hitch, we got the sled stops, We got the lockouts. We got our support bars. We have our fuel cell mounted, the frame gusseted, our shock bar installed. We already have all our drive shaft loops and our U-joint scatter shields. Now we're gonna move on to the transcooler mount. Originally, the transcooler mount used to be back here, but obviously the fuel cell took its spot. So I think what I'm gonna do is run it to right here. I had originally thought about maybe over there, but the problem I see with that is I'd have to make new lines, which I guess isn't the end of the world, but I'm not sure. I just kind of like it being over here because there's nothing else over here. And then I can run all the trans lines across this bar here, keep them nice and high out of the way of the drive shaft. And then all the fuel stuff's over here, tranny stuff's over here. Might make it a little easier to work on. But now that I say that, the nitrous goes here, so I'm gonna think on it. Just a little update on what Jeremy's got cooking for us. Here's our ECM. He converted our CP3 controllers in the cab. So basically everything will be mounted on the floor right there. Nitrous controller, AEM. Yeah. He is doing a fantastic job. He's definitely made fun of me quite a bit, but you know what? We'll actually have some pretty decent wiring. So he's been going through, rewiring everything. Looks great, should be nice and clean. Our main harness will go through right there. He's just been killing it. Right now, I got the fuel tank draining because we're gonna get the fuel tank out and mount the trans coolers. All right, guys, fuel tank removed. We got all of our return fuel system lines pulled out right here from the CP3s and the Air Dogs. I find it's just easier to start fresh. We got new line. We're gonna route it differently now that the fuel tank, but basically, Shad, you guys all know him, the our Lord and Fabricator. We're going to add, we have the rollover bung right there, which is what we need for safety. We have to ground this, no big deal. And then we're gonna have 5 return lines. Each CP3 will get its own return. Each Air Dog will get its own return. And then we're gonna do 1/2 inch return from the rail / back of the head to here. And then our 2 feeds are on the back. Obviously it's a sump. So we'll have our 2 rear feed lines back there that come up here. We're gonna leave the Air Dogs where they're at just because it's wired, it's done. I know some guys will mount like one over there, one over there. It looks cool, but I don't know. To me, it's just not worth it. And yeah, so we're just trying to figure out. We removed the fuel tank because the tranny coolers are gonna go right there. I think what I'm gonna do is weld some angle iron to the frame, perpendicular, so coming out this way, and then sandwich the 2 coolers. Like the angle iron will go right between the 2 coolers. That way they're still double stacked like so. A little bit easier to maintain. The mount that Meyer made worked great for back there, but now that we moved it up here, I think that's where we're gonna put it. I'm thinking right here because if, God forbid, the drive shaft did come apart, we have our scatter shield and then our loop. It would be very hard to believe that a drive shaft could go over there versus putting it up under the truck. I just worry about if the drive shaft comes off the transfer case, it might be able to snake there. I just feel like this is the safest spot, easy to work on and get lines to. And then we're gonna use the PDD lines. I'm a big fan of that heavy duty push lock. They don't chafe nearly as fast. So we're gonna go ahead and start fabbing up the bracket for the training coolers and just keep slowly knocking it out. All right, so we got these burned in with the angle iron. I used a piece of flat stock vice grip to this one to make sure the angles were straight. We don't want to tweak the base plate. So I'm going to set the top cooler on here, drill the hole, and then I'll be able to sandwich it between here. I made sure I accounted for the thickness of the angle iron here, so the other one should just slide in like a tray. Drill the holes, tighten that up, set the tranny coolers in here, and then see what we need for fittings and line. And then we're just gonna make new trans lines. It's a lot easier than screwing with all the steel braided. I don't feel like stabbing myself anymore tonight. So you guys can see there, plenty of drive shaft clearance still. And we have plenty of clearance when the truck's down and not locked up like so. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm gonna go ahead and get the holes done, get the tranny coolers mounted, and I'll check back in with you. Hey guys, so we're gonna wrap this up. We got our tranny cooler mounted right there. We gotta run the new lines, but we'll do another video of the fuel plumbing and the trans line stuff. But it's mounted, painted, drying slowly. Again, I know some of the UCC content isn't as relatable as some of the other stuff, but hopefully you guys are enjoying what goes into taking a truck that was pretty much 100% streetable to the highest level competition, in my opinion, in the country. As always, guys, like this video, drop a comment down below what you think, subscribe if you have not already, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.